Those of you who don't know me, my name's Robert Fenton. I've been running this group for about a year now. My partner Joachim, fortunately for him, he's sunning himself in Spain, but he'll be back tomorrow, I think, ready in time for Internet Week, which I will talk to you about in a little second. If you have any questions, you need any help, you need any advice about anything to do with tech, city, startups, any of this kind of stuff, if you want to be connected to someone, come and talk to me, come and talk to the team. Another little point that I want to tell you about is we're launching another group. So the group primarily was started as developers and entrepreneurs, but that was too narrow a market, and we've got lots of other people, so investors, marketeers, designers who want to be part of it. So we decided to open up the group, so hence we've come up with Hipsters, Hackers and Hustlers. Please join that group if you can on Meetup. That's going to be the main group, and we've got a website coming out for that where we're going to be doing all kinds of other events and different formats and so forth, and more related to all sorts of other things in the tech world. So please join that group if you can. A couple of sponsors. Our main sponsor is Wiz Email. It's an email marketing platform. So if you know the likes of MailChimp, well, these are the same sort of platform, just pretty much more efficient and better tools to avoid. So if you want to try them, then give them a go. Develops is run by Joachim. It's an app development studio. They specially work well with creating MVPs, so minimal viable products. So if any of you are working on a startup, an app or mobile app, and you need a kind of MVP, come and talk to Joachim, and he'll help you out with that. Moving on to our speaker of the evening is Oli West, who runs Tech City Tours. So he's going to come up and tell you everything you need to know about London's tech city and other tech cities, I think. Did you want a mic or?
Hi everyone. Quick show of hands then, who's generally new to Tech City? Most of you. Okay, cool. So I am definitely in the right room. So I'm Oli. I set up Tech City Tours. Let me just tell you a brief history, how I got to what I'm doing now. So I come from a marketing background. Amazingly, this is probably the most appropriate image I can find on Google Images to describe marketing. But for the first 3 years of my 5-year career thus far, I started brand side at a record label, and then moved agency side. But like probably many of you here, I had an idea. I've always had ideas. I've never pursued them. And this time I decided to pursue it. Just all the right stars were aligning, and I thought, okay, now is my chance. But also, probably like you, I felt a bit like this guy as a big sort of plunge into the unknown. And for a long time, I was quite confused. I'd quit my job. I'd come to Tech City, which I heard was the place to be to launch a tech startup, which is what my business sort of fell under. And I think we're just spoilt for opportunity. You're surrounded by so many services and people that are willing to help you, but making sense of it can be a bit tough. And it took me quite a while to make sense of all this, and this is like a tiny, tiny fraction of what's out there. After a while, though, it started to make sense. And I kind of like broadly understood after a while that actually all this can be distilled into probably about 8 different sort of areas. So you've got your accelerators. These are the guys, typically maybe 6 to 16-week programs where you effectively apply to get onto this program, which is usually run by either corporate sponsorship within a co-working space, and they'll give you mentorship, maybe a little bit of investment. They'll make sure that your business is ready to launch, or at least get your MVP started by the end of the 16 weeks. So those are really cool. You've got your co-working spaces. You're in one now. If you go downstairs to the cafe, it's free working space. But as cool as it is, and it's great, and I started out downstairs in the cafe, it can get really busy, and it can get a bit challenging to focus sometimes. So there are many more. You can even move upstairs. There's a couple of co-working spaces on the upper floors that you can pay, I think on average it's about $250 a month for a desk, depending on where you go. And there's dozens of these places, if not more, around the area. You've got your incubators. These are usually working inside some of the larger corporates. Sometimes there's one down the road called Idea London, which is sort of an incubator. They call themselves an innovation centre. And it's sort of the same thing as an accelerator, except that you've got this, the help of the large brands behind you. So in their case, it's Cisco, DC Thompson, and UCL University. And then so you have your news sources. Check out Tech City News. Those are the guys that really have their finger on the pulse of here, and that's what you want to look out for mostly, I'd say. Also, there's some really great sort of newsletters like Startup Digest, things like that. And then obviously a question that everyone has is, where to find investment, how to raise finance. So, you have your angels, and then you have the big VCs, and you can go to crowdfunding platforms like Seedrs and Crowdcube, or you can go to the government for a startup loan. I am whizzing through this, by the way. This isn't this is just one slide telling you a story. So if I'm not going into as much detail as you like, you can just come along to one of the tours. They're free, by the way. Then of course you've got so many events, hundreds of events going on all around you all the time. There's events, several here a day. And this is just, in campus, and there's many, many around. And then you have things like General Assembly and Dreamstake, and these companies will have sessions and lessons, over time, so that you can improve your marketing or your business strategy, or sessions on how to raise investment. Is crowdfunding an effective way of doing it? Things like that. And then you have other learning resources. So just go to the British Library. Their Business and Innovation Centre is really great. It's not necessarily Tech City, but if you're starting a company, you certainly want to know about maybe potentially patenting, an IP, trademarking, things like that. So anyway, that's kind of a really quick overview of how this scene is sort of the pillars that put it all together. Anyway, this is great, but it took me quite a few months to work all this out myself. I did start more or less January last year, and it took me until probably about the end of March to really sort of feel like I was on my feet. And I was going to so many events all the time. This one you've probably heard about. It's probably sort of one of the biggest well-known regular events for startups around here. If you haven't been, go. It's every Friday evening at a different place around Shoreditch, and it's kind of where just generally everyone who works in tech startups descends on, usually for some free drinks and a chat every Friday evening. So check that out. Anyway, what I noticed going to a lot of these events, and what I was super stoked that I was able to do, was that because I was meeting people all the time, they were asking me lots of questions, all the questions that you have when you're starting this for the first time. So, you want to know, okay, where can I work out of other than Costa or Starbucks? Where's a suitable environment for that? When I started out, I didn't even know that campus existed. So you've got to find out somehow. And people were asking me the similar sort of questions, and I thought, I can probably cover this off in a group environment. And a few months later, Tech City Tours was born, and it started out as a real side project, and still is in many ways, except it's a lot more serious now. We started off in October last year, September, October, and the feedback was really positive. What we do now, it's a monthly event around the Old Street area. Either myself or Anthony, who's another entrepreneur, founder of Campus Board and Sorted, will give you a presentation similar to this. We cover off the history of the area, how the government's involved. We go much more into depth in terms of what the accelerators are, which ones might be suitable for you, the co-working spaces, what events you should be looking at, all these sorts of things to help you kind of get on your feet within the 3 hours that we do this tour for. We have guests in. This is Paul Dowling of Dreamstake, which is a really great sort of learning resource that I mentioned earlier. Check them out. We've also had Sebastian Hein, the founder of Signkick. We've been into the offices of Huddle. And the idea is really so that it's an opportunity for them to tell you about their story, but also for you to ask them questions. We go on a little tour of the area, so you find out what's where geographically, which helps. And we actually go into a lot of the co-working spaces too. When I say a lot, I mean two. But on different occasions, we've been to different places. So I think this is Idea London that I mentioned earlier. We've been into campus, obviously, Central Working, which is next door, Tech Hub. So we've been to a few, and we wind the day down with a chat at a local cafe, so you can really sort of absorb everything that you might have learned for the first time within the last 3 hours. And I invite a couple of other sort of startup founders along to share their stories with you. And everyone has a different story, right? So they have a different perspective on the area or the scene. So I think it's important to speak to as many people as possible. So I invite as many down as possible. And yeah, that's kind of like how the tours work. And we've been fortunate now to get sponsorship from a couple of local tech service providers who are genuinely sort of behind, helping people out in Tech City. And it's given us a little bit of funding so we can actually expand across the UK. So what is now once a month in Old Street is going to be also once a month in Farringdon as of next month, also once a month in Manchester as of August, and then we want to expand across the country. So basically every kind of tech cluster has its own Tech City tours. And if that doesn't make sense to you because you think, oh, but Tech City is in London, well, it's the whole definition of what Tech City is kind of being expanded. As I don't think there's any firm definition right now, but it's definitely more than Old Street. You've got so many different clusters popping up in London and then around the UK. And Tech City UK, who are the sort of organisation, it's an independent government body, but they've been set up, I think back in 2010, to look after the growth of the area. They are, actively behind helping each individual tech cluster now, and not just around London, which they did do when they were first set up. And they're actually helping us sort of expand around the country too. If there's one thing that I can leave you with is, if you are really new to all this, is that you have you're genuinely quite spoiled. There's no other, better time thus far to start up a tech startup in London, at least right now, and I dare say across the country. So when you're in environments like this, always talk to the person next to you. Don't leave this room without talking to the person next to you. Go to as many relevant events as possible, and over time you'll work out which ones are relevant for you. And just get involved and be part of it, because there's no real better opportunity to help yourself and help others as well. So be open to people's questions and things like that, and let's help each other out. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks very much, Oli. So as Oli said, he's sticking around, so if you're too shy to put a hand up now, he's around afterwards to come and ask him questions. Okay, so now on to the 30-second pitching.